Hey everybody, so we are going to do a tier list for all the different classes in Baldur's Gate 3. Before I make this list here, I just want to remind everybody of a couple little points. One, I do not play D&D on the tabletop. Once again, as with my racial tier list that I did earlier, which I definitely have to remake, I'm not fully aware of the differences between the tabletop and the video game. I'm just looking at this purely from a video game perspective, and for the people that do play the tabletop, there are many changes that, although they seem light on the surface, are dramatically different, and my experiences differ very, very much from what people experience on the tabletop. Two, just so everybody is aware, the level cap is level 12 within Baldur's Gate 3. Once you finish the game, you are done with the game. So I'm going to be doing this tier list primarily from the strength of classes by about level, I'm going to say 5 to 8, since that's where you play the majority of the game at. So classes that are weaker before that or stronger after that, I'm not really going to value that. And that's just something I want to put out there because people say, oh, but my level 20 wizard warlock subclass, blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't care. Like, even if you were extremely strong at level 12, great. So you get to beat the final boss or final bosses and then you move on, right? So it doesn't really matter that much in the grand scheme of things. I'm going to avoid basically every spoiler I can. I have actually done small takes of this video where I try to hide any information that I know. So if you're worried about spoilers or anything like that, I'm going to try to avoid that entirely. Okay, so I have tried to play as much of the video game as I can. Definitely not because I like the game, but definitely for the purposes, yeah, I mean, I've played a lot of this game. So we're up to 143 hours. I've obviously hidden my achievements because I could give some things away. So I've tried to play as many different classes as I can. I've played a lot of multiplayer. I've played with a lot of different people. So this is my experiences in Baldur's Gate 3. This will obviously, of course, use magical items and how that affects different classes because how strong items are obviously affects the different classes. Now, I have done tier lists for different games, and generally, as with my racial tier list video, which again, I need to remake that video. If I haven't mentioned that, I really, really need to remake that video. I'll probably hide that video at some point and remake it. So, because right now, it's not really the most accurate. So, S, when I do other games, S generally means this needs to be nerfed. In this video, I think S might actually be things maybe that not need to be nerfed, but things that should maybe be toned down or readjusted because right now some of the S tier classes do make the game a bit too easy. So that's just something. I'm not saying things should be nerfed or shouldn't be nerfed. Nothing, to my knowledge, nothing actually breaks the game so badly. In Divinity 1 and Divinity 2, you ran into issues quite frequently where there would be a class or spec or something that was just so strong it would break the game and just kind of make it no longer fun or interesting to play because you were just so strong that every combat was just you going through your turn just just you moving your clicking the buttons like nothing's a challenge anymore. So I don't think any class really reaches that strength, but some of them kind of get a bit close. C, D, C I'll put average, I think, in C. So S, A, and B I generally use here because, let's be fair, a lot of classes are actually above average. I know that seems a bit weird to say, but yeah. D tier means this class probably needs a little bit of help. F tier means I don't really see much of a reason to play this. Okay, so with that in mind, C is going to be average, B will be slightly above average, or just, I should say, good. A will be, this is very strong, and S is, yeah, this might be a little bit too much. Okay, so starting from the top to the bottom, we got Barbarian, Bard, Cleric, blah, 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 blah. If subclasses notably change the class, I'll list them. Unfortunately, there are a lot of subclasses in the game right now, like a lot, so I can't, I don't know every single one of them. The ones that stick out, I'll probably mention, but otherwise it's going to be rather difficult for me to mention every single subclass, considering if I was to look at this list here, there's quite a lot, and I have not played a full run on every single subclass. So, Barbarian. Where am I going to list Barbarian? Well, to give you some differences from people on the tabletop, what you might not know is that in the game, it is very, very easy to reach +1 weapons. That +1 weapons give you +1 to hit and +1 damage. By Act 2, it's pretty easy to reach +2 weapons. In addition to that, it's very easy to find rings or things like that that can increase your damage, gloves that give you bonus things, bonus strength can be found on one set of gear that I know of. It's very easy to find very powerful items that make your characters extremely, extremely powerful. So, barbarians are already considered to be more of an early game class, and with the amount of raw strength you can get, barbarians just kind of get extraordinarily powerful. Barbarians have the advantage on dice for dexterity saving throws. So if you do, I actually did a set here, if you do a 17, 14, 15, and you use your first feat at level 4 to go to 18, 16, then you can get some gear that push your strength to 20. But level 5, your barbarian can be a monster. And with the +2 saving throw against spells, and the advantage on that, that means some people think that, oh, well, barbarian's not as tanky as fighter because they have lower AC. But that's not entirely true. Even if you go barbarian berserker, the half from physical is enormous. And then in addition to that, the advantage on spells can reduce a lot of spell damage, in addition to having the, the health pool advantage. Even against fighters, barbarians have a good chunk more health. So, barbarians are just very, very good all around. Now, that's really all I have to say. Barbarians are just extremely S tier. I would say, I've mentioned this before, I think the meta right now is probably just hasting a barbarian or a fighter, which I'll get into later. They're definitely, I think the ones that push it too far, in my opinion, the ones that definitely push it too far are Githyanki barbarians. Those ones definitely maybe got a little bit too much help. For those of you who don't know, there's special Githyanki items in the game that push them, in addition to Githyanki already being a very good race by default. Githyanki is probably a little bit too much on the martials, but I'll talk about that later. For now, barbarians are just very tanky, very damaging. They can frontline while also doing basically all the damage if you support them with haste. For those of you who don't know, the difference between haste on the tabletop and haste in this game gives you an additional action, not just an additional attack. An additional action allows you to take more attacks. So at level 5, a barbarian that is hasted can take 4 attacks, plus if they go berserker, they can take 5 if they want to take the penalty for their additional attack. I'm not going to get into that, but basically barbarians that are hasted can basically run up and even on tactician mode do absolutely crap loads of damage. I don't consider, okay, so some people might say, for example, that always using Reckless Swing to get the advantage, to get the bonus crits might not be worth it. It could be worth it, it might not be worth it, that depends on you. Are you fishing for crits in order to take more damage? Yeah. Barbarian 6+ tends to not do that much, I will be blunt. If I actually pull up this thing here, though I hate how Extra Life forces you to show his stream. That's a little bit silly. But if you look here, barbarians at 4 get barbarians at 5 get extra movement that other classes don't get. Particularly fighter at 5 just gets an additional attack. So barbarian power spikes level 5 very, 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 very hard. They get the additional movement, they get to jump around really hard. 6 basically does nothing. 6+ kind of not very great. At this point, you can start subclassing into a different class, but generally, you'll be strong enough that even if you just keep putting everything into barbarian, you're not really gonna fall off. You're not really getting much. Unfortunately, you're not really getting much out of barbarian anymore. The brutal critical at level 9 can be funny if you're just fishing for crits. A half-orc level 9 barbarian can crit for mega damage, and it's funny, but it's not consistent. I don't really even acknowledge it being there because it's so inconsistent. Sure, if you save scum and keep playing an encounter until you crit your first attack, great, cool, interesting. Not consistent, though. You'll generally have enough rages. I'm spending a lot of time here on barbarian because I'm trying to go through it. You'll generally have enough rage charges that you shouldn't really run out. And on the easier encounters, you don't need to use it. But you've got 2 rages early on. At level 3, you go to 3. So 3 encounters, long rest. 3 encounters, long rest. That's not... That's in fact, that's even too lenient. You really don't need more than 3 rage charges per long rest. That's generally my experiences. Bard. Okay. So Bard is good. They are extremely good at talking through encounters. I'm going to be blunt, though. I'm sorry. I am a fighter player, a barbarian player, a melee, martial, if whatever you want to call it, player. I did play College of Swords Bard. I do have a video on that. You guys might have seen that. Not the strongest. The low health from being a, air quote, support, same as cleric, kind of sucks when you go College of Swords, because now you need to melee, but you don't get a shield. Bards don't get shields at all, ever. They get light armor. Their AC is not the greatest. They get to talk really well, and they're jack of all trades. They can open up a lot of encounters. They can do lots of talking. Bard can open up unique conversation paths, do things. Blah, 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 blah. They're not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but I know some people say, oh, but my subclass with Bard and Cleric and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, like, sure, once you get to more of the advanced stuff, I'm sure there's stuff I'm not acknowledging here, but it just, you have to remember that the majority of the game is going to be played at level 5 to 8, so it doesn't really matter if, like, your level 9 or 8 Bard, Cleric, subclass can do things. Like, the game is, I'm not saying it's wrapping up by level 8, but, like, by level 9 and 10, the game's like, okay, you know, we're finishing the plot off, so, like, if that's when you're playing to get strong, it might be a little bit, in my opinion, too late. Bard, I'm going to put down at a C. They're not bad, not by any stretch of imagination. They're fine, and I definitely think if I was rating Bard to be more of, like, how much fun you're going to have in the game, I think Bard might be A tier. Me personally, I'm going to say it right now, I am biased, okay? So, Bard's not bad by any stretch of imagination, but in a pure power perspective, they're definitely lower on the list. They're average. They're not going to be as good as a barbarian. They're not going to be as good as a fighter. They're not going to be as good as these people. In my opinion, they're just not going to be. I just don't think so. Cleric, okay. So, whereas Bard is a lot of CC skills and the ability to try to CC people, they've got decent healing, but not great healing. They can do lots of actions. Bardic Inspiration is kind of absolutely terrible, and I don't think it's very good at all. Cleric, on the other hand, has the advantage of, they get really, really good spells really early. By level 3, they can use the Summon Weapon, which is outrageously powerful. It does a lot of damage very early. It's a bonus action. The Summon Weapon, or whatever it's called, skill is just outrageous. I'm gonna be blunt. I'm not really sure. I know D&D has never been lauded for its very good balance, but for the life of me, I literally cannot understand how that is not a full action at least, and even if it was, it would still be extremely potent. So that alone allows Cleric to outperform characters like Bard, simply off the fact that on a bonus action starting at level 3, you can summon a weapon, which then tries to swing and does a good chunk of damage. Later on, you can do other summons as well, just very powerful. Unlike Bard, which relies heavily on RNG, your experience may vary. Do you hit the hold persons every time? Then you're good. Do you miss them? Then you won't do as good. And that kind of sucks for Bard, that they're very RNG reliant. They very much, whether or not they succeed is just a roll of the dice. And I know that can feel like that for a lot of classes, but the difference between a hold person and a non-hold person is very, very big. Cleric doesn't really suffer the same penalties. They're also significantly tankier. They can use medium armor and shields compared to Bard's light armor, and that's it. So Bard might have to go into a specific race. I mean, they won't have to, but they could go into a specific race just to try to get more armor. But additionally, if you're trying to melee with Bard, you don't have the shield for the 2 AC, plus all the additional bonuses and magical effects that shields can give. And Cleric can. And Cleric can get medium armor, which is just better. So, yeah. Cleric, I'm going to rate as an A tier, maybe even S tier. In fact, I think I might just put Cleric at S tier. The other thing is Cleric has guidance I'm going to be blunt. Guidance probably needs to be nerfed directly for the purposes of this game. Guidance, in my humble opinion, 100% makes the game too easy. 100% makes basically every check way too easy. They did not make the dice rolls for checks actually seemingly balanced on having guidance, despite the fact that Shadowheart is just next to you casting guidance nonstop. Your average difficulty roll is like 10 to 15. Only the difficult ones start reaching 20, and even then, if you have a charisma character with even 16 charisma, there's a +3. If you have what do you call it? The skill in something, there's another +3. There's a +6. Guidance is a D4, and all of a sudden a 20 difficult roll, especially if you can add other things into it like friends, all of a sudden a 20 difficult roll, you can succeed the majority of the time. And that would be a very difficult roll that you aren't supposed to check. You can get to the point where just guidance as a cantrip is probably too much in this game and should probably be toned down. I know on the tabletop it works differently, but in this game it is a little much, in my opinion. In my humblest of humble opinions, I do not believe they balanced the roles on the fact that you can permanently have guidance. I do think Cleric might just overall be the best class in the game, potentially. Definitely a little bit too much. Going on that, let's talk about Druid. Now, Druid's the first one I'm going to have to split their subclasses. Druid, F. I don't understand what Druid does. Maybe I don't get it, but maybe I don't get it. So they do have medium armor. They do have shields. They do have a lot of weapons. They do have the ability to use this to get a good melee attack. They do have Firebolt. They do have Thorn Whip. Well, I mean, you can choose your cantrips right here. They can't get guidance. Oh, no, wait. Sorry. They can get guidance. Words are stupid. Their spells... Their spell choices are okay. They can do Cure Wounds, Healing Word. They're okay. Their ability to do damage isn't great. I'll be blunt. Their spells as you level up aren't great, to be blunt. Spellcasters in this game are already at a disadvantage because the majority of the game is being played only at the point where, as I understand it, on the tabletop, they're starting to get strong, but maybe there's an issue with the tabletop where, maybe people are playing their classes to too high of a level, because I actually did look into the data. There are two things, in my opinion, that I think a lot of tabletop players will have a different opinion. One, 42% of tabletop players do not use magic items whatsoever. Magic items seem to blatantly prefer martial classes, so playing with no magical items might make people think martials are way weaker than they are. And number two, the majority of tabletop players actually quit around level 8 or 9. So I think the whole mages are too overpowered late game, so we need to give martials some help. Druids, at any rate, they don't have Fireball. They don't have anything. I'm sorry, I maybe there's something I'm not getting on the tabletop, but they just suck. The best thing they can seemingly do is use Thunder Wave, and then just grab Goodberry to do out-of-combat healing. But here's the problem, with even slight micromanagement, you can take short rest, long rest, short rest, long rest after every single encounter. Very, very rarely are you going to actually need out-of-combat healing. There are some situations in the game where you don't want to be taking a long rest. In those situations, the best thing you can do is take a druid, throw them in the trash, respec, and just drink some healing potions. Druids are terrible. I don't understand them. They seem to be very spell slot efficient, as in they can cast a spell, then recast it, or they have a lot of low-ranking spells that they can cast, or that they have spells that affect long periods of time, such as slowing all enemies so they can't reach you, with like, they only move a fourth movement through this ground, so you can slow them down and you can shoot them down. They seem to be very spell slot efficient. Unfortunately, in a game where you can take so many long rests and short rests and find so many magic items with effects on them, and when mages are already I'm not going to say they're suffering, but where they're already... This is just my opinion. I'm a very pro-martial player. I don't like mages at all. I think they're terrible. If there was a class that hunted down and murdered mages, I would play it. I despise mages, in fact. I am Conan the Barbarian enthusiast, okay? My dream fantasy setting is a large muscular man running through a firebolt heroically and cutting down the evil vile mage. That is me. So I already am prejudiced against mages, okay? I just don't like them. And I think druids are terrible. The one exception, I believe, is Moon Druid. Why am I putting Moon Druid at a C tier? Now, I do believe they might actually be better than this, but they might not be. There are some rings I have found. There's a ring that while you're shapeshifted, you roll a D4 extra on every single check while you're shapeshifted. I have not checked if that actually applies to damage and hit chance. If it does, druids could do some decent damage, surely. If it doesn't, I don't know. Do items apply to you while shapeshifted? I think, but they might not. I don't know. It's kind of wonky. Overall, shapeshifting druids just don't seem to benefit very much from all the different stuff. They're okay because they're really tanky. They can just continuously shapeshift back in, I guess. But they're like average. It's like, yay, you're average. You're firmly underwhelmed. Let's put it that. I'm firmly underwhelmed by druids completely. Again, the best way I can understand it is that they're very spell slot efficient in a game which doesn't really care about spell slots. So, yeah. I mean, things like Goodberry, I'm sure if you're playing on the tabletop and you were like hitting lots of traps and you had to do like 3 or 4 mini encounters in a row and you needed to just like top off your health bar, sure, in that situation, Goodberry could be fine. In the reality of the game, it just doesn't matter. So I'm just going to leave Druid at that. No good spells later on in the game. Sure, maybe at like level 5 they can get one half decent one. But the game is about doing damage and killing people. The best stun is death. Dead people do not fight back. Druids don't seem to be good at that. Moving on. Fighter. Extremely good at basically everything. Do you want to play the best archer in the game? Do you play a ranger? No, you play a fighter. And then you just go archery. Sorry, ranger players. This might be a hint at where you might be getting placed. If you want to do a stealth archer, you can still do ranger. If you want to do a fighter, you go... So if you want to do a shooty boy... Archery warrior. Fighter, sorry. My mind, warrior and fighter are like interchangeable. I apologize. No, I don't apologize. Anyway, archery. This makes you the best range shooty boy. Oh my god, sorry if you like sneeze. Or not. This makes you like the best shooty boy in the game. Archery is very, very good. Defense, you get +1 AC. Now, worth noting, on Tactician, all enemies get either a +1 or +2 to hit. It's not really known. I'm going to be blunt. A lot of people don't really know it. It's kind of argued. It's really weird how people don't know, but I've not been able to find an actual definitive answer to the question. So, getting your AC up I'm sure on the tabletop you can kind of just play average AC and be fine. In this game, you want to be like 17 AC by default. Like that's where you want to be 17 AC as a mage. Let's put it that way. So defense is very good to keep your AC up. Dueling is decent. If you're holding a shield, you get an additional 2 damage with your main hand. This allows your main hand weapons to do pretty decent damage, I found. Great weapon fighting. I found that a lot of people agree that this is mathematically insignificant, even with a great sword. I don't know. Damage dice are fun. Rolling higher damage dice cooler. So this is when you have a shield. All allies have, sorry, let me play this again. Enemies get disadvantage attacking your allies that are next to you if you see the attacker. This is you like kind of blocking. You're like, ah, right? So, this is good, but kind of weird to use. 2 weapon fighting. This, when you make an attack with your offhand weapon, you can add your ability modifier to the damage of the attack. So the best way I found to do this is you go 1 in fighter, 3 into rogue to get the thief to get the extra offhand attack. I don't really like 2-weapon fighting. I'm gonna be blunt. There are some gloves, there are some weapons, there are some things that help out 2-weapon fighting. Basically, to my knowledge, if something is underpowered on the tabletop, they try to use magical items you can find to equal it out. There are a lot of different builds you can do. There are so many items. There's so many things you can find in this game that make you way stronger, particularly with things that are a little bit underpowered. Here's the problem that you might notice I've been getting into. Here's the problem. Fighters aren't really underpowered on the tabletop until the late game, and that's like level 12 plus. In this game, where you play the majority of the game at like level 5 to 8, really, it's like 4 to 8. It's like that area. Like it's like level 4 to 8. Fighters have so many magical weapons, so many effects, so many things that can help them, particularly if you go greatsword. Now, when I do mention fighters, do know I'm talking mostly about greatsword. The other weapons are okay and are probably still A, bordering S tier. Greatsword is what really is pushing fighter, in my opinion, to S tier. Greatsword is just weirdly better than all the other weapons. I don't know why. This is probably a meme from the tabletop, but Greatsword is just very consistent. It's just better. It does more damage on average. It's just better. It's more consistent, does more damage. It's better. I don't know why. But the best I can understand is it costs more gold on the tabletop, so it's like harder to get, but that's completely irrelevant. You can literally find, I shit you not, for tabletop enthusiasts or even Baldur's Gate 3 enthusiasts, in the first town you go to, at level 2, you save up your gold and you can buy a +1 greatsword. So if you can't find it there, then in the Goblin Town, which you can literally speech check your way into off 2 checks, which is easy with guidance, you can buy a +1 greatsword there at level 2. It's not hard. So, you might say, oh, you're min-maxing, oh, you're cheesing. Sure. But what can mages do? To my knowledge, there's nothing you can do on mages, particularly early game. There's nothing you can do. There are no items. There's nothing you can find to equalize the gap with a +1 greatsword warrior. By warrior, I mean barbarian, fighter, whatever, right? There's nothing you can do to equalize the gap out at all. They're just gonna be better, mathematically. And particularly because mages will have lower hit chances early game, kind of sucks, and it kind of just makes them better. That's all I have to say. Fighters are just really, really good. Okay, monk. Now, I've been doing a bit of a monk run right now. There's not a lot I can say about monks. I'm going to be blunt. My monk has been extraordinarily powerful. I've been enjoying playing my monk a lot. He's really fun. People keep telling me he's going to fall off, but if you do short rest, long rest, even if you have a bard, bards can give your party extra short rests. Bards are probably better than I make them out to be. I'm going to be blunt. I should maybe put bard up here, but we'll... Anyway, particularly if you have a bard, you will literally never find yourself in a situation where you have to take a fight without using max ki at the start of the fight. Much like fighter can always take short rests, so they always have their champion die or whatever it's called, their tactic die, whatever you call them, their little die where they can parry and stuff, which just does insane damage. Sorry, riposte. I don't know what you call it. Anyway, I feel like people are underrating monk. I'm gonna be honest. I think later in the game, monk might start falling off, but in the first town you can go to, you can find a staff that gives you +1 hit and +1 damage on all your unarmed attacks. It's a staff, so it doesn't apply to the staff itself, but it applies to the unarmed attacks afterwards. So those special attacks you can get at level 3 are way more consistent. In addition, I'm not going to spoil it for all of you guys, but there is very, 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 very powerful lots of things in the game for monks and dex characters. So I think I'm gonna rate monks higher than I think. I'm gonna end up having B tier, B average tier based on the way things are going. But monks are good. Monks are very, very good. Paladin. That doesn't seem to be any downside to Paladin. I'm gonna be blunt. Holy Rebuke is good for tanky paladins, which you can easily do. You can very easily make a very, 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 very tanky paladin. Oath of the Ancients makes you a decent support healer. Oath of Vengeance, Inquisitor's Might does pretty good as well. You can find some paladin unique items around. That's one thing I should mention, by the way, that I haven't been mentioning very much. So for those who might be a little bit mad at my tier listing so far, Barbarian has tons of unique items you can find that help out Barbarian. Bard has one. It's very good, but Cleric has so many. You can do a full Cleric healing build. You can make your heals heal for more and give temporary HP. And every time you heal someone, they get blessed. And your blesses give 2 d4s instead of 1. Druid has like 1. Fighter has 10 quadrillion. You go out in the woods and you trip and you find another greatsword with +1 or +2 and amazing effects attached to it. You go out, you trip. Ah, shit. Who left their +2 greatsword out here? Monk has so many effects and items that help them scale. You literally, you go out in the woods, you accidentally, oh man, who left their gloves that improve unarmed damage here? Paladin, same thing as Fighter and Barbarian, and there are additionally some unique Paladin items. Early on, you can find something that whenever you use your channel Oath, you get 5 temporary HP every turn for 10 turns. Paladins can become so tanky. I've done encounters on my Paladin, my Oath of Vengeance Paladin. I did a dwarf, gold dwarf. I was doing it, I don't think gold dwarfs are that amazing, but it was like a gold dwarf Paladin Oath of Vengeance that I put a lot of tanky stuff in. I did like heavy armor master, got some unique heavy armor. And that's the thing, there is extraordinarily powerful heavy armor throughout the game. So that's another reason Fighter and Barbarian can do very good. So Fighter and Paladin. And I got this dude, especially this special flail. I'm not trying to spoil it for you guys, but he was taking like -6 damage from all physical, -2 damage from all magical. Absolute monster of a Chad tanky dude. Imagine he's getting 5 temp HP a turn. If he's getting hit for 20, then he's getting hit for 15 because of tanky, the temporary HP, but then he's getting hit for 9 because of the damage reduction. So dude would get hit by a 20 damage hit, dodge the second one, he's only taking 9 damage. It would take the mob, this big mob, it would take him, what is it, 6 rounds to drop my dude. Okay. Ranger. Okay, I'm gonna be blunt. Ugh. I'm gonna put Ranger down here. Okay, well, I don't think Ranger is that bad. Particularly, they can benefit from so many martial items. Early on, you can also find items that give you +2 range damage just because. You can find in Act 3, there is one of the most broken items I've ever seen for Rangers. I should say for shooty boys, that helps them scale up. But the problem is, early on, you can be hard hit to find Ranger items. Unlike Warriors, where you can just trip and fall over and oops, there's another amazing greatsword. Rangers have to kind of go a specific path to find their good items. So for RP value, they're going to be a bit lower. Sorry to say. And also the item they take can also conflict with some other builds you want to do. So unfortunately, Rangers, you have to go a specific route, a specific path, and it can kind of be a bit limiting. Other than that, they find a +1 heavy crossbow early on, and that's basically it for them until Act 3. They do not seem to have put in enough ranged weapons in this game at all. If there's one major complaint I have about this game, mages and ranged users suffer from not enough magic items, But whereas mages by Act 2 and 3 can start finding some actually interesting stuff, rangers basically just end up taking the remnants of what was intended for fighters and paladins. I definitely think rangers got the short end of the stick really hard. The exception here is Beastmaster. I'm going to put Beastmaster in A tier. For those who played the tabletop, you're probably going, what? Typing up, yeah, fuck you. Okay, let me explain the difference here. Beastmasters cannot find many items that improve their pets. So from that perspective, I don't think your pets do much. But actually, what I just said was a lie. Your pets move on an independent action and not by your character's actions. As I understand it, on the tabletop, moving your pet is a bonus action from you, meaning you don't have a bonus action because you have to constantly be using it for your pet. In this game, you do not. Your pet is its own independent entity. It moves up, it attacks, it has a lot of HP. The bear can just straight disarm people, including bosses, which has happened a lot in my multiplayer run. Like, a lot. He has disarmed practically every boss with a weapon. It's almost disconcerting, really. But Beastmaster has so much utility, so much power. Just their raw output, even without really many magical items, is insane. Then once you get an Act 3 weapon, which gives you effectively, I'm not going to try to spoil it for you guys, but it's like, damn, it gives you like effectively +6 to hit. So you go sharpshooter, and the ranger on average is pumping out 25 damage every shot at range for the entire rest of the game. And it's kind of late in the game. It's like in the last 2/3 of Act 3. So it's not exactly, what's the right way to put it? You're not going to be spending the majority of the game with it, but, you know, pretty good. But it's just their lack of, you can jank together a ranger build, and I'm sure eventually people will find out specific routes you can go to find ranger items, but the problem is if you need to go a specific route to make a character stronger, it's going to be less fun for everyone else. Particularly if you're playing multiplayer, because remember, a game's time is limited. You've got till the time you start the game and the time you end the game. A game's time is limited, and you can be a completionist party that wants to do every little quest, every little area, but if you're trying to roleplay and follow a path, and do events in order and be like, why would my character go in this direction? Stuff like that, and I do value that, then Ranger is going to be a bit of a hindrance because he's going to force you to go here. Whereas Warriors, the greatsword users, they can basically go, okay, we're going to do that. Okay, I could get a good greatsword here. Or we're going to do that. Oh, I could get a great halberd over here. Or we're going to do that. I can get another amazing greatsword here. Or we're going to do that. There's like two great... You see what I mean? Rogue. Okay. This is going to be a bit controversial here. And I'm going to have to explain it. And anyone that looks at my tier list will probably yell at me. But this is a tier list based on the combination of fun, strength, and fun. Rogues have an issue where a rogue forces you to play a rogue party. The second you have a rogue in your party, you must play as if it's a rogue party, which kind of sucks. Now, rogues are cool to have around because they can unlock stuff, and that's neat. Unlocking stuff is cool and fun and interesting. The problem is, when you stealth, basically only a rogue can stealth. You can do, I think Shadowheart by default is a trickery domain cleric, so she can kind of like help everyone stealth along and you know, help the rogue not be a hindrance. But at the end of the day, stealthing behind enemies and assassinating them and stealthing behind people and pushing them into lava, sure, it's fun, it's cool, but it also takes away from the rest of your party. Like, no one's going to use Asterion, the companion rogue. No one's going to use him. If you're not playing Asterion, you're not going to be microing on him to assassinate everyone before a fight, because you want to be taking the fight yourself and doing the fight yourself. You don't want to be fighting a half-strength encounter because your rogue went hee and assassinated a bunch of people, right? In addition to that, there would be, let's say, autosave reliant. You don't want to be starting an encounter where your rogue is out of position because he missed his attack and oops, Is that fun for you to load a lot and save scum a lot? Probably not. In my opinion, it's probably not that entertaining. And I just feel rogues are a selfish class. They're not very good in combat. They don't get a bonus attack. I don't really have anything else to say about that. Not great. Okay, hold on, I'm checking something out real quick. Sorcerer, wizard. Okay, I'm gonna put it this way. I'm gonna put wizard at C tier, maybe even D tier. In fact, oh boy, do I do it? Wizards, okay. Oh boy. How do I put this gently? Okay, here's my problem with sorcerers. I'm trying to phrase this in the right way. My issue is they're very weak until they get fireball. Or lightning or whatever. They're tier 3 skills, right? Now, the issue is once they get those, they can't really use them that often. Their tier 2 spells are okay for sure, some of them. And you can upcast some stuff and make it decent. But they're very long rest dependent. They're kind of not the most fun to play around. And even, like, basically, if I put this in the paint, can I put this in the paint for you guys? Let me try to put this gently. The power of the class, and this is just my opinion, and once again, I'm sure there's some magic items or some stuff that changes this. If this is their power over time, right? So here's your power, and this is time. If we look at it like that, their power is kind of like low, then it spikes up, and then in my opinion, it actually starts falling down again. While there are extraordinarily powerful skills later on, yes, I agree. While I don't think that's entirely accurate, and maybe I'm being a bit of a meanie to them, man, by the time they start scaling up, the barbarian, the fighter, and the paladin have been running around. They're just like, yay, I love Baldur's Gate. I'm having so much fun. Yay, wee. And they're running around enjoying the game. And the sorcerer's like, firebolt, firebolt, firebolt. And everyone's like, man, why do we keep lugging this asshole around? I've heard it's bad on the tabletop, but definitely in this game, it's even worse. Because the fighters can give +1 weapons very easy, which improves their RNG and massively increases the power gap. Remember, this is a game in numbers. A +1 can be a very big number, okay? And they can get some stuff early on that helps them to scale better, to do better. But once again, you're being forced into a specific path. Why would my character do this? Well, we need to go in this direction and get this item and then this item, and now I can start being a real character. Yay! They're very squishy. Very squishy. They can't wear any armor. You're gonna... I hate to phrase it like this, but I feel like you kind of need to go... Well, you don't need to. You can do a lot of things and get your AC up with mages. I'll say that. They're not the worst in the world, I don't think. Not really. Ugh, it's just like, why? Like, taking along a sorcerer is just not a feels good. You know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna actually do it. I think sorcerers... Did I say wizard? I don't think sorcerers are bad by any stretch of imagination. I just don't like playing with them. Now, they are a charisma character. They can get through encounters easier. If you're not using a charisma character, you can use a sorcerer. So they do, let's call them non-combat encounters, much better than wizards. Much better. Keep that in mind. This list is how we for fun. Here's the issue. For those of you not RPing, is it fun to skip encounters? Sometimes. But once you have a high charisma character, do you skip encounters sometimes? No. You probably skip them pretty much all the time. If an encounter can be skipped, you skip it if you have a high charisma character. That's not always the most fun. Aha! I made the boss kill himself. Cool. Maybe funny the first time, but then you think to yourself, okay, but actually I kind of wanted to do that. Right? Cantrips. Do I see guidance? No. Then you're weaker than cleric. Sorry. Not sorry. Lots of cantrips for sure. Bone chill, acid splash, true strike, light. Very good stuff here. Very, very cool stuff here. Okay. Spells. Oh boy, an average of like 10 damage. AoE. It's okay. It's not bad. I'm not saying it's bad. But like, how often does this happen in the game? If I had to think, until you actually start getting Fireball, it's pretty goddamn rare to find clumps of enemies more than like 2 or 3. 3 even being kind of rare, 2 being what's more common, 1 being the most common. You would have to position yourself to actually hit more than 1, and this is a pretty melee ability on a class with no armor and 8 health. So, Ray of Sickness, oh boy, possibly poison. See, this is kind of my issue with mages. I'm gonna be blunt. I'm going to be blunt with you, and I'm gonna say this even though D&D purists might hate me. I feel like mage spells need base damage. It is so lame that your skill can do 2 to 16. 2 to 16. What even is that? What? What? This is awful. Like, what? 2 to 16. Now, Thunder Wave is probably your most useful skill, because you can knock people away from you. It doesn't hit allies. In Baldur's Gate 3, Thunder Wave doesn't hit allies. You can knock them away, get good falling damage early game. For the majority of the game, in my opinion, not for the majority, for the majority of the early game, your best skill is going to be Thunder Wave. That's my opinion. Witch Bolt is decent, but oh wait, 1 to 12! You could spend a spell slot and do 1 damage! What? I think, okay, I'm going to be blunt to you. I'm going to be blunt. I think they need to go through all spells and add base damage. I think Witch Bolt should be 2d6. And I think 2d6 should be, like, that should be the most random spell. Thunderwave, instead of 2d8, should be like 2d6 plus 2. So it's 4 to 14 instead of 2 to 16. With a much... Yeah, you see what I mean? The problem is, and this is a legitimate complaint I have. Instead of 3d6, how about like 44? Right? Like, do you get my point? Do you get my problem? Mages are save scummy. I'm gonna phrase it in a lenient way. Mages are kind of save scummy. You can go through the same encounter twice and have your mage completely get blown out the first time because his spell gets resisted. Then the next time he low rolls, and oh wait, now you haven't killed anyone in the first 2 rounds of combat, and now you're just getting kind of beat down, right? Like, it's a problem. Then you go through the second time, the first Burning Hands he does, 16 damage, killed like 3 goblins. Oh wow, now you win. It's such a low roll, high roll moment. There's no player skill involved. Now, I understand. Oh, but it's Hashinshin. It's D&D. It's not player skill. But like, who to target, when to use abilities is something that marshals do think about. I know people think, marshals, they are the dummy dumbs, right? But like, what takes more skill? Knowing who to target, knowing which abilities to expend, knowing which things to do. Yes, that does take some player input. Knowing, 3 gobos here, me run up, Burning Hand, right? Like, how intelligent is that? You're always going to do that because it's the most obvious thing to do, right? But the problem is, you can literally do the same action 5 times. 1 time it works out amazing. The 4 times it works out terribly. Okay, so you do have these subclasses on Wizard, which I do agree. Activate to get advantage on your next attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. It's... Wild magic. Wild magic is blah, 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 blah. Draconic Bloodline is... This one, I think, is generally agreed on to be the best, I think. Basically, instead of unarmored giving you 10 AC, unarmored gives you 13 AC. So effectively, you're wearing, like, heavy light armor, which is pretty good. Hit points is also pretty good. Draconic Bloodline does fix a lot of the issues. So I'll put it this way. I think Draconic is probably C, because at the very least, in my opinion, I think Draconic Bloodline is like a tankier sorcerer, which helps a lot, actually. Storm Sorcery. You can cast Fly. Cool. You can move around. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's like, cool, you're extremely squishy, but at least you don't get to stand in melee range, I guess. It's not bad. I'm not saying it's terrible, okay? I'm just saying Draconic is clearly better. So, Draconic Sorcerer, I'm going to put it a C tier. I'm actually going to be blunt here. I actually think Draconic Sorcerer is so much better than the other two that Draconic probably puts Sorcerer at a B tier. I know what you're saying to yourself. Oh, you're being a hypocrite. Die. But, like, let's think about it, right? The difference between a Draconic Sorcerer and a Storm Sorcerer. The Draconic Sorcerer gets 3 more AC and 1 more health per level. Now, while that 1 more health per level is not the end of days, it will help you potentially survive 1 extra hit from an archer. It will help you potentially not get hit by the archer. And the difference between a sorcerer, I have seen it. Archers run up through two or three Gobbo archers shoot at your sorcerer, they're downed. Or 2 or 3 Gobbo archers shoot at your sorcerer and they're not downed. Is literally the difference purely in Draconic Bloodline. Draconic Bloodline making it so your sorcerer doesn't just instantly down in every single negative situation. I know, I'm kind of like harping on here, right? But, oh, wow. I didn't even realize that they even get stronger at level 6. Damn. So you get Disguise Self. And you get an additional spell? Spells that deal fire damage are more powerful. Now, what does that mean? I've never actually looked into that. I'm going to be blunt. I'm sorry. I don't actually know that. Resistance to fire damage. Fire spells are more powerful. Dang. Okay, yeah. Draconic is... I'm going to be dead honest. Now that I'm realizing that, I might just put Draconic into A tier. I didn't even think about that until just now. Yeah. Having, even though it is RNG, a level 6 spell set, okay, God, I want to Google this, but I'm in the middle of a video, so I can't exactly Google it. Whatever that means, at level 6, I'm going to look at this. Draconic Ancestry Red. Baldur's Gate 3. Can I look this up? Affinity damage. You add your charisma modifier to the damage? Oh my god. How are these even in the same atmosphere? You'd have to be high to have gone anything but Draconic. Now, I do agree. For RP purposes, you can just directly play a weaker character. But my god, the difference is astronomical. So you're significantly tankier. At level 6, your fireball hits like 10 Mack trucks because... Oh my god, no. I'm actually going to have to put Draconic Sorcerer in S tier. Because this means they can do all the charisma checks for dialogue. And you get your charisma to 20 and you hit a +5 on every fire move. Every one of them at level 6 forwards. That's crazy. And you get HP and you get AC and you get resistance to fire. It's just not even close. Then... Man, man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, that's just not even close. That's a complete blowout. I'm sorry. Regular sorcerer, absolutely terrible. Draconic sorcerer, what? That's not even comparable. Okay, let's move on. Warlock. Okay, so Warlock is good. They can bind to a greatsword. They can recover everything on a short rest. So short rest, long rest, short rest, long rest. Every single encounter, you short rest. So basically You're basically a slightly... Oh man, who is it? The Fiend? Yeah. So you're a slightly squishier, what do you call it? Fighter. You are a squishier fighter, so you're probably gonna have to find a way to get tankier. But you are a squishier fighter, who, if you get a kill, you can get some temporary hit points. You can bind with a greatsword. You can use the greatsword in melee. That's okay. The alternative is you go the Eldritch Blast route, which you just spam Eldritch Blast over and over and over. And you use Hellish Rebuke to use all your Warlock spell slots. Hellish Rebuke does a good chunk of damage anytime someone hits you. It's pretty dang powerful. Allows you to shred through enemies. So you just... I know it's funny, but like, yes, you just spam Eldritch Blast and you use Hellish Rebuke. That's pretty good. I'm gonna put Warlock up here at a B tier. Not amazing, not bad. I'm trying to think here. Yeah, I mean, the Fiend is obviously better, but the amount they're better is not blowing my mind. Let's put it that way. It's okay. The Fiend is clearly better, but not worth mentioning the difference. So, yeah, I think Warlock's fine. You can't go wrong, in my opinion, with Warlock. They're quite good. I shouldn't say quite good. They're good. They're just not like, right? Like, I would rather have a Warlock than a Bard if it came down to it. I know that might be heretical to say out loud. You also have Charisma, so you can do all the Charisma checks. Bards are... I should probably actually just put Bard into B tier if you want me to be fair. Maybe I'm being a bit Bardist right now. But, yeah. So, Bards, they're fine. Bard's good. Warlock's good. They're fine. They're not as good as Beastmaster. That's just my opinion. Last but not least, we have Wizard. And there are 900 different subclasses. And 900 different... everything. Wizard is... they're fine. I don't really know what else to say. Yeah. You know, now that I see the Draconic Ancestry bloodline thingy, Wizard just feels like it's coming up short. I don't think Wizard is bad by any stretch of the imagination. I don't hate having a Wizard on my team. I don't like them. I was gonna put Wizard in B tier, but after seeing Draconic Sorcerer, it kind of just makes Wizard look terrible. Yeah. Nothing else to say. I know, oh, wizards can learn every spell in the game, but there's only so many good spells. Like, sorry to say, my D&D fanatics, but like 70 to 80% of spells in this game are just bad, outright. Most CC spells are bad. Sorry to say it, my friends, but most CC spells are just bad. Why are they bad? Because, rolling to kill someone or rolling to CC someone is like the same thing, but if you roll to CC someone and it resists, you do literally nothing. Okay, I'm gonna put Bard here, but then down here I'm gonna do Sword Bard. I think Sword Bard is worse than regular Bard, obviously. So I think it's worth marking the difference here. That's a bit random, unfortunately. Well, I should say fortunately, so you guys actually get a better picture, in my opinion. Sorcerers can get every good spell that they need anyway. It's not a big deal. Wizard, oh, they can learn every skill. Great. Do you have them right now? Well, I didn't prepare it. But do you have it right now? Well, I could. No, you don't. Okay. Arcane Recovery is good. And I will admit being able to double cast is good. Ugh. Man, oh man, oh man. Sorry, sometimes I have to, like, Google stuff because I'm not that amazing. So, Sorcerer has meta magic. What does Wizard get? Arcane Recovery? Is that it? I mean, is that really it? I mean, what do they get? Yep. Do you at least get to do guidance? You don't even get to do guidance. Yeah, okay, you can do friends. Friends is as good as guidance. Not actually. It's almost as good, but not actually. You roll... Huh. Huh? So the base wizard is an intellect of 10 by their... Well, you're gonna have to obviously change that if you play a wizard. I think they screwed up here. Did I screw up here? I think I screwed up here. I screwed up here. Okay. So, your primary is intelligence. Intelligence is worse than charisma. That's my opinion. In my wholesome opinion, I think intelligence is worse than charisma. Charisma is just blatantly better. Just blatantly better. Gives you better skill checks. Intelligence, well, actually, the best of all is probably, well, wisdom. Okay, so wisdom is better in combat because it allows you to resist a lot of combat stuff. So, to be fair to druids, they do get wisdom, which makes them much better at resisting charm, sleep, etc. Hold person, which the AI does. The AI will use hold person and charm. As you reach the later stages of the game, they will do that way more often. So, wisdom is definitely good in combat. Charisma is way better out of combat. Intelligence is like... So imagine you got the spellcasting trio, right? You got intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. And charisma's like, ugh, and wisdom's like, ugh, and intelligence is like, eh. That's kind of how I see it. What does it do? Comes up short. Obviously, if you ranked all three of them, you would have to rank one last. Do we agree? Does everyone who watches this video agree? Write me down a message if you disagree. If you ranked all three of them, one of these stats would be the best. One of these stats would be the second best. One of these stats would be the third best. They can't all be exactly equal. They can't. It'd be impossible. You can't do it. Okay? And when you look at it from that perspective, intelligence is the weakest. So, with that said, I believe Wizard does come up about... You know what? I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. I think Wizard is D and Sorcerer is C. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. I think this is actually a pretty fair list in retrospect. Did I put Paladin down? I never put Paladin down. Okay. Paladin's also S tier. Did I never actually put Paladin down? Are you serious? Huh, that's funny. You know, Okay, if I'm gonna be the most fair I've ever been in my life, and it pains me. It pains my soul to do this. I think this is actually the most fair way to do it. As I finish this up, I think this is the most fair way to do it. I think Cleric, Fighter, and Paladin are blatantly the best three classes in the game. Paladin is just a damage monster with a ton of utility. They can go through, they can be your charismatic face, They have tons of unique... Okay, well, their ults are kind of hard to maintain. I'll admit, their ults are kind of hard to maintain. Their smites look spectacular. Smiting people for 1 billion damage. Let me put it this way. When you're fighting an enemy, and sometimes enemies do actually have classes, the hardest 2 enemies to fight consistently across the board, the #1 hardest enemy to ever fight is a paladin. Anything that is a paladin is better. They get to attack, they get to smite, they get to heal. They are deadly bastards. They're tanky, they tend to have lots of HP, they tend to have high AC. They are monsters. Fighting paladins is probably the hardest class in the game. That's just my opinion. Fighting fighters is probably the 2nd hardest class in the game. And I'm not saying we should like compare the classes based on how good they are when the AI uses them. I'm just saying it gives you an idea of how strong these classes are. Because anyone that's a fighter or anyone that's a paladin, and the Githyanki are fighters, so if you've ever done any Githyanki encounters, you'd notice it. Fighters are diabolical. Paladins are trucks. There's one encounter, you guys will probably find it, where you have to fight multiple paladins at the same time, and they come at you like they're the goddamn wrecking crew. You guys will probably find it. And you have a paladin, he's just going, goosh, goosh, just obliterating the people in front of him. And the second paladin Pillarman comes up, and he obliterates everybody in front of him. And the third paladin comes up, and he flexes, and he heals 28 HP on the person in front of him. And you're just sitting there like... It's not fun when they do it. So, paladins are monsters. Paladins, okay, I'm gonna be blunt. If I did give it to the best singular class in the game, I might actually say paladin. You guys are probably gonna say, but they fall off late game. No. Okay, probably. I think at level 11, fighters get an advantage on the other ones because, if I look this up and show you, I'm pretty sure, yes. Fighters do get an additional attack at level 11. That puts them to 3 attacks, meaning a hasted level 11 fighter is probably overall the strongest class in the game. Probably. With that said, though, level 11 is pretty late in the game. You will only spend a little bit of the game at level 11. So fighter being that good at level 11 is not, in my opinion, changing. Now, their feat at level 6 and 8 is pretty good. I will be honest. Getting a feat at 4 and 6 and 8 is really good. I gotta say it. I gotta be fair. As much as I love my bar boy, I think I'm actually gonna have to put them down into B tier. Oh, it pains me. Barbarians are so good early game, and they're so good mid game. But the lack of their scaling and the fact... Because here's the thing, you probably don't notice it, because overall, I will say, overall D&D is pretty well balanced. Can we all agree on that? The difference of one die is not going to make or break your character. You might not even notice it. A +1 modifier, you could play an entire campaign and maybe not even notice it. However, if I'm being fair, fighters get more feats than barbarians, I think. I'm pretty sure on that one. Their post-5 leveling is better. Barbarians at level 5 are probably, right at level 5, barbarians are probably the strongest class in the game. That's my opinion. Right at level 5, they're probably the strongest class in the game. You can find amazing items for them. You can scale them outrageously well. But the issue is... I'm going to look it up again, just so you guys can see with me. Once again, the problem is they get the level 4 feat. They get the level 6 additional rage charge. That does literally nothing. You will literally never run into issues with rage. So level 6, fighters get a feat. Barbarians don't. That's big. That's kind of a big deal. At level 7, they do get their feral instinct, which is it's not bad. I'm not trying to say it's bad, but like, Level 8, they get a feat. Level 9, they get brutal critical, which does nothing. So, I gotta be fair to barbarians. I think they power spike really hard at level 5, and you can use that power spike to complete the game. But to be fair to everyone else, they will slowly get outscaled, and like 3 to 5 is their heyday. Level 3 to 5 is when they're at their height. And then just because their level progression is so bad, you basically are forced into multi-classing to get anything out of them. And in my opinion, fighters just in there like level 5, amazing. Level 6, amazing. Level 7, amazing. Level 8, amazing. Level 9, 10, 11, amazing. And barbarians just sitting there like, oh yeah, I roll extra critical dice. Who cares? Sorry, Barbarian, who cares? So, yeah, I gotta say, Barbarian is too crit reliant. They're too inconsistent. Yes, hypothetically, they could get the big boy crits and I crit 80, and you make a funny YouTube video about it. Sure, fine. But in reality, it is very rare that the crit will matter. So, I would say this is a fair tier list. Looking over it one more time, I would say this is a fair tier list. Yeah, I would say, like, once I have all the classes listed and everything, this is very fair. I think Cleric, Fighter, and Paladin are clearly the best. Cleric has absolutely insane out of combat. Their combat, just because their magical items are nuts. I assure you, Cleric magical items are nuts. Fighters are just good all around. Paladins might... I think all 3 of these are probably the best classes in the game. I think all 3 of them are probably the best. They all are extremely powerful in their own way. Beastmaster is extremely good. The extra pet, they don't get many good items, but having an extra bear running around, just being a tank, opportunity attacking, being a nuisance, like, that's just an extra attack die for you. It's not a great attack die, but it is one. Draconic Sorcerer is... Yeah, I mean, I never actually stopped to think about it until, like, I thought about it. But once I actually looked... Because my friend would always hype up Draconic Sorcerer to me, right? He's like, oh my god, they're so good. You're underrating them so much. Now that I actually stopped to look at their thing, and I will do a little spoiler here, but this isn't a story spoiler. This is like an item spoiler. You can get your charisma to 22 consistently. Consistently in Act 3. So in addition to Rangers power spiking really hard in Act 3, Sorcerers will power spike really hard in Act 3. In addition to getting those high level spells, being able to get to 22 charisma, and if I'm understanding this properly, getting a plus 6 to their fire damage is pretty good. So Monk is... I'm going to have to play Monk more to experience it, but there are... I do believe if you min-max, and do a very specific build for Monk, which I won't get into, I do believe Monk could enter S tier, but I have not personally tried it or played it. It is just a hypothetical. Warlock is fine. Bard is good. They're just not Cleric. Barbarian is good. Very fun. I am biased towards them, so they really should be an S tier, but I can't fairly keep them in S tier against all this other stuff. Moon Druid is fine. They're a tank. I find Druids terrible, and I love Druids. Man, every time I look at Druid, I'm just like, cool, so I'm Druid of the Spores. I'm like a melee support with 1 attack. Awesome. Even Sword Bard gets an additional attack. Why not Moon Druid? Please. Give Moon Druid a level 5 or level 6 additional attack. I beg. Preferably level 5. And honestly, push Sword Bards down to level 5 as well. I beg. Ranger, Draconic Sword, Bard, Sorcerer. Sorcerer's fine. I just think they take too long to get going, in my opinion. They're too squishy. They take too long to get going. Wizard, I find to just be worse. Sorcerer. If Sorcerer... Here's the thing. Oh my god. It's just like... The difference is astronomical between Draconic and not. It's like... Draconic is like an entire class on their own, and these two are just shit. Maybe I'm not understanding it. So rogue and wizard are... Wizard's just worse sorcerer, sorry to say. Maybe I should just put regular sorcerer down here as well, if I'm gonna be blunt. I think I want to. I think I'm actually just gonna put regular sorcerer down here. Non-draconic sorcerer, I think I'm gonna put up here. I'm gonna do that just so people understand fully. Sorcerer I would put down here, wizard I'd put down here. Look, fine, they power spike later on. Fine, they do decent. They can finally play the game. Who cares? Not me. They're mages. They suck. They're ugly. Okay, no, actually, I'm going to keep sorcerer up here simply because they go off charisma instead of intelligence. I'm sorry, but being able to have... Okay, like, having party diversity does matter, in my opinion. You do want at least one charismatic character so you can, like, experience the charisma, right? Like, it does make you stronger in a game sense, right? Like, we could all agree on that. Sorcerer is stronger because they scale on charisma. Wizard is weaker because they scale on intelligence. Other than that, they're practically the same goddamn class. And Druid is terrible. I don't understand Druid. Druid is awful. I tried to play a Druid once, and I thought to myself, wow, this is, like, torture. This is actually... I swear to God... playing Druid in D&D is like Guantanamo Bay's level shit. That's my opinion. Sorry to every Druid player in the world, but I want to play Druid. I play Druid in World of Warcraft. I want to be a shapeshifty fun time Druid. What I don't want to be is... Sorry guys, I used Bear Druid 3 times in that encounter because I keep tanking because my AC is lower than it should be because we're on Tactician difficulty. Gonna need a long rest, but man, we only did 1 encounter. Sorry, gonna need a long rest. And then if you're not doing Moon Druid, you're a piece of shit. That's my opinion. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate you guys watching my long rants on D&D balance as a Baldur's Gate 3 player who does not play the tabletop. Thank you all for coming to my TED Talk. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.